2009, the Pentagon named white supremacy a major threat to homeland security. Today, white nationalists are singing colonial folk songs in the wake of Senate Bill 1070, and Glenn Beck gets an hour of national airtime a day to wipe his tears with the American flag. It's time for us to turn up the heat. It's time for us to turn up the heat because apparently they haven't gotten it. See, we've been through the fire. We've been through deportations and drug laws, repatriations and church bombs, militarized borders and gunshots, like the bullets that killed Samuel Young Jr. in 1966 on the front lines with SNCC. He was 22 years old, 2 years out the Navy, apparently too black and too angry for Alabama taste. He was murdered for using the whites-only bathroom he was trying to desegregate. So what did SNCC do? They turned up the heat. They made the connection between black poverty and Vietnamese sovereignty because apparently risking your life for a war that ain't yours overseas wasn't enough to please the United States' racist taste for blood. So they turned it up. They turned it up and filled the streets with banner slogans waving America, you left us hanging like the flesh dangling from the chest and forearms of children after Vietnamese napalm strikes whose scorched palms made it hard and painful to hold their nation's destiny while the call for solidarity burned in black power fists and SNCC protesters with a third-degree urn that no fire hose could douse. No doubt our movement has been conditioned. Our movement has been on a mission, and today is no different. What would Malcolm X say as Obama raised the stakes in Afghanistan with 43,000 troops beating their boots into the land as if their tread was softening a nation up for the kill? Possibilities of withdrawal from Iraq halted still as families who've seen their nation turn inside out pray with burning palms that today they won't fall prey to predator drones falling from the sky. Families who for the last 5 years have seen tanks, troops, and bombs turn mosques into rubble, rubble into dust, and dust into wind. It's time for us to turn up the heat if we're going to win. Because the Tea Party's growing up a right-wing movement. Running up on Congressman John Lewis, shouting racial slurs on some Jim Crow mob mentality type foolishness, and Governor Jane Brewer's rounding up our people for reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion? I got reasonable suspicion. I got reasonable suspicion that Oscar Grant wasn't the first or the last. I got reasonable suspicion that Alex Sanchez's rights was under attack. I got reasonable suspicion that, you know what, I got facts that say your criteria for gangster, terrorist, and illegal equals brown and black. But who's gonna round up Jane Brewer and her staff? Before she auctions away our rights on eBay? Who's going to build a movement to stop police brutality, environmental racism, and build an anti-racist face-to-face ongoing fascism? See, we are, but we got to turn up the heat. We need labor and community to build up the cavalry with centers of resistance that can push forward a strategy like LCSC. We're turning up the heat. We're turning clipboards into platforms for a program that can change the course of history with demands like no to zero tolerance, no chickens for truancy, free the US 2 million, hands up our black and brown children. We're mobilizing oppressed nations with bus-only lanes and putting cars on house arrest. Yeah. So we can shout with full lungs, hands off nations like Iran because they got backup from China and boosted oil trade with Venezuela. Call that triple threat against their US-sponsored sanctions. We can turn up the heat without dropping the flame, just like Stokely passed the torch and became Kwame Ture. We're keeping the streets packed on May Day, so one day instead of Arizona ice raids, we can celebrate amnesty with National Ice Cube Days where all of our undocumented brothers and sisters can run up on the police and say, let me see your ID. Who's gonna do it? We got to. So let's turn up the heat. Yeah.